High School District Board of Education meeting this evening, February 5th, 2024. During this meeting, 2 opportunities are given to citizens to make comments. In order for a citizen to make a comment, they have to be physically present at the meeting, and during the first opportunity, comments regarding the agenda items are invited. The second opportunity will occur just prior to adjournment, when residents may address general comments to the board. Mr. Usami, roll call, please.
Mrs. Varghese.
Here.
Mr. Blendo.
Here.
Ms. Calderon.
Here.
Mrs. Huang.
Here.
Mr. Luisi.
Here.
Mrs. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Stankus.
Here.
Ms. Steffens.
Here.
Mr. Weaver.
Here.
Thank you. Let's now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing copies of said notice to the record, filing copies of said notice with the municipal clerks of Hillsdale, Montvale, Rivervale, and Woodcliff Lake, and publishing said notice in the record on July 21st, 2023. Next on the agenda, we have the minute. Oath. We have to do an oath for Mr. Michael Weaver.
I, Michael Weaver, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people. So help me God. I, Michael Weaver, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by the law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities, so help me God. All right, there you go.
Next, we have for the minutes for the December 18th meeting in 2023 and January 4th, 2023. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
January 4th, 2024.
What did I say, 23?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, 2024. Roll call?
Mr. Blendo.
Yes on December 18th, abstain from January 4th.
Ms. Calderon.
Yes to both.
Mrs. Huang.
Yes to both.
Mr. Luisi.
Yes to December 18th, abstain January 4th.
Mrs. Martin.
Yes to both.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes to both.
Ms. Steffens,
Abstain from December 18th, and yes to January 4th.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes to December 18th, abstain for January 4th.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes to both. Next, we have comments from the public. Citizens are invited to make comments regarding agenda items and are limited to 3 minutes according to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education Policy Number 0167. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, and state their name, town of residence, and which agenda item they are referencing. And it doesn't look like anyone is here, so we'll move on. Hello. You can sit. Did you, I just got to the part about comments from the public on anything that is on the agenda. So you came just at the right time if you wanted to speak about something that is on the agenda.
We just wanted to hear about Jewish club topics in the high school.
Okay, so how about this? At the end, when we do at the end of the meeting, we have comments from the public on things that are not on the agenda. So if you could at that time stand up and speak, that would be great.
It's not on agenda today? The Jewish club topic?
Oh, is it?
Not on agenda today?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something that wasn't on the agenda.
We have been told that it's during the...
If it is, you can stand, but hang on, let me just see, which, page 7? Got it, okay, my mistake. So, if you would like to, to speak,
This is the time.
this would be the time to talk about it. So you can rise, sign in, with your name, your town of residence, and then, we already know which agenda item you're speaking about.
Or if you, perfect timing.
Okay. That's it. So what now?
So you
How
have
we doing,
3
Mr.
minutes
Weaver?
to speak. So state your name, your town of residence, and then you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming me here. My name is Dennis Rosenberg. We are from Woodcliff Lake. We just moved recently from Fairlawn. This is my wife, Sophia, and Eitan is my son. My son, Eitan, was president of a middle school in Fairlawn. We moved recently here, so now he's vice president of the grade. And he initiated, together with a couple other students, the idea of putting together a Jewish student union or a Jewish club in the high school. So we wanted just to stress out the importance, especially these days when anti-Semitism is on uprise, like I wouldn't say never before, but let's say a long time it didn't happen like that in this volume. So I think Jewish students should be united. They shouldn't be separated from other students. The idea is to bring values of and traditions to all other students, to teach them about that, and to give the opportunity to Jewish students to be united and spend some time together learning about culture and spreading their traditions and culture to other students. Basically, that's it. I hope you will positively consider that, the importance of this thing, and I would appreciate it very much if we will start actually as soon as possible this gathering of Jewish students in the high school. We have a great a teacher, Mr. Lutz, which is will be coordinating this. We got support from principal, and a lot of students show up in the interest meeting. I think about 70 students or something like that showed up to the interest meeting. Basically, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity and discussing this. And we hope we will move forward, as well as all other things for our students here in Woodcliff Lake and Montvale High School. I have children also in middle school and elementary school, so we have a long journey together here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg.
I'm sorry. I guess my question was, I see that this is for Pascack Hills. Does anyone know if there's been any activity at Pascack Valley for a similar club?
So they have a different construct at Pascack Valley. They have a newly formed, I think it's called, thank you, Interfaith Student Union.
Okay.
And the students who were interested, there was a smaller number, and they chose at this time to keep it through that club, though they are always given the opportunity to do something differently
Thank you.
if they want. But I think that they felt they had some momentum with what that group had been doing, and that was a new club that had formed this year as well.
Great.
So I just wanted to address the family. Nice to see you again. Etan, when we last saw each other, I told you that you were going to come here and do great things. So it's great to hear that you're already so involved, and just your presence here tonight with your parents on this topic is appreciated. So thank you for coming.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Okay. So it doesn't look like there's anyone else to speak for the meeting. So we'll move on to policy, where we have 3 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question on the school calendar. Do we know what the expectations are for Juneteenth in terms of the federal holiday and when it's celebrated and what other surrounding districts are doing? I thought I heard that the federal holiday is celebrated on the Monday, even though it's not June 19th. And so I know we're closing on the Tuesday. We're graduating on Tuesday, and that's the last day of school. But if Monday is the federal holiday, and I'm curious maybe what the other K-8 districts and surrounding districts are doing, and if they're closing on the Monday, and how that impacts or how that was factored into decision-making on the calendar.
Sure. I'm not aware of any other surrounding districts that are closing on that Monday. I know our K-8s are not. If I hear anything or we get a directive, we certainly can adjust.
Any other discussion on policy? No. Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Usami.
Mr. Blendo,
Yes.
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Abstain on 1, yes on 2 and 3.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have 3 consent agenda items for education. Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this the one that the clubs are in? Sorry.
I had a question on, oh, go ahead, Jim. I had a question on number 1. So that's travel to Taiwan. When would that be? May 17th. May 17th, okay. And how much due diligence have we done on the security front.
I like that Mr. Luis is looking right at Ms. Huang because she is one of the volunteers that is helping with the trip, which is wonderful. I don't have it in front of me, but they are working with a travel company as well as they've gotten a report from the Department of State that looks like there's no concerns at this time. If that were to change, we would certainly adjust. But the interesting thing about this trip, typically our trips are not directly tied to curriculum. This is a trip that is directly tied to curriculum. So they've done a ton of planning on what they're doing to support what they're teaching within the foreign language classes here in the building. But it's something that they would be keeping their eye on. And both teachers have been to Taiwan multiple times, so it's not the first time that they would be taking this trip, and it's not the first time they're taking students. Anything that I missed? Ms. Wong?
Well, I'm meeting with the 2 teachers tomorrow.
Oh, wonderful.
One of them can't make it,
Okay,
so they need someone who can speak Chinese to
Oh,
help
okay.
with the 18 students that are going.
got it.
Any further discussion?
Good questions.
Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Yusami.
Mr. Blundo,
Yes.
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have Human Resources, and there are 23 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, please.
Yeah, I just had a question, just clarification. On the student clubs, they're open to all students? Okay, just said everybody, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, they are,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, these are teachable moments. These are great ideas for cultural awareness, and I think it's fantastic that they have these organizations where it's teachable moment.
Agree. Thank you.
What I find amazing about the district is that, like this example, a lot of these are student-driven clubs. So I'm proud of the students for getting that traction and showing the interest and actually making these things happen in our district.
Any further discussion? No. Okay. Roll call, please, Mr. Yusami.
Mr. Blundo,
Yes.
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Abstain 16, yes to everything else.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have Finance, for which we have 27 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. So I do want to, before I do the finance discussion, I just want to say thank you again. And so the way that works, that means that it passed and you're good to go for tomorrow. So you can talk with Mr. Whelan. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for coming to support him. That's wonderful. I want to just bring our attention to something. As I mentioned, in December, we were in the process of purchasing 2 properties. I'm so pleased to report that one of the properties, 201 West Grand, which is the property directly adjacent to Hills High School, is now our property. So we're excited to begin the planning process. I know, right? That should be like a, we're excited to begin the planning process over the next few years to determine how we might want to use this property. In the short term, we're grateful to have the extra space. And in the long term, it'll be interesting to see what we can, grow and facilitate with that land. It's a little bit over 1.5 acres, and it actually goes along our stadium pathway. So it's the entire length of our eastern border including up into the woods. So we're excited to be able to access that stadium driveway a little bit more cleanly. We also are working with the town, as I had mentioned before, to do a traffic study. This also gives us a little bit more flexibility with regard to traffic because we now own more land going up West Grand. So we're excited about that. I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of got that update. And then we're still working on the purchase of the house for our Milestones program, which is in Hillsdale. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bellotti. Any questions, further discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blundo,
Yes?
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Okay, next we have old business. Anyone have any questions, discussion on the old business? Mrs. Martin?
Two quick questions. One, I know we talked about that some Wi-Fi for PV students was in the work. Wanted to know if we had any more update about that. And then way back when the girls' dance team came and presented to us, and I know that there's some things we're in the work for that as well, so we could just address where we are with those two things.
So the extra funding for girls' dance team is part of the consideration for the budget right now. So that'll be something that we talk about. We're looking at additional funding for the girls' dance team. I believe it was ice hockey and swim had asked for additional offsets. So that's part of what we're looking at in terms of what specifics will be included to increase that leverage of the budget. So I will say that conversation will be forthcoming probably with one of our initial budget conversations. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
The Wi-Fi.
Oh, the Wi-Fi.
The
I'm so
never-ending
sorry. Yes.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, oh my gosh, how did I forget? So actually, yes, we had a whole with this. Yes, so we actually had a very nice conversation earlier today. Mr. Zeller and I spoke with the mayor in Hillsdale, specifically that we had so where we left this off last, let me actually back up for a second. So we had a agency come in several years ago to do a boost study. Basically, you can pay as a commercial, property, we can pay to have like a commercial booster put on the building to increase the signal in the surrounding area. At the time, the professionals that came in said that they couldn't even give us a quote because there was not enough signal for them to boost. So we actually now fast forward to about a month and a half ago, we've actually now contracted with a second company because the Wi-Fi signal has changed. I'm sorry, I'm saying Wi-Fi. The cellular signal has changed slightly. We think there's a chance there may be enough signal now to boost. So we do have another company coming in to do would you call it an audit, Mr. Zeller? An audit of the cellular signal to see if we can now put a booster on the top of the building. If we can, then that's something that we'll bring back to all of you and talk about. We talked to the mayor today because we had a call from Congressman Gottheimer's office about cellular access in our region about 3 weeks ago. His office is looking at areas like ours that have limited access because it's not just Valley, it's the surrounding area. It's Hillsdale Elementary School. It's all the way down towards the golf, down and up towards the golf course as well. So it really is actually, we figured it out, it's about a square mile surrounding the high school that has substantially limited cell service. So his office got involved and we spoke with the mayor of Hillsdale this morning, who was going to be coordinating with the congressman's office to see if there are any funds to, increase signal. The bottom line is that they've done several studies on this. Apparently a cell tower was put up in Woodcliff Lake, like near Hillsdale, a couple of years ago. That may be why we're getting a little bit of a better signal now than we were, but it still remains very weak. I mean, it's very difficult to get a cell signal at Pascack Valley. For our own internal workings, our radios do work there. We don't have security concerns about it because of that. We also have it where students can get on the Wi-Fi to GChat anytime. So Mr. Puccio will often say to parents, get the GChat app on your phone. Your kids can GChat from their laptops anytime at all during the day, and can get on their own devices at the end of the school day. So that's kind of where we are. Once that company comes in and does the audit, I'm very curious to see if there's enough signal now to boost, because that would be a really nice conversation for us to be able to have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I comment?
Oh, please.
My concern is not during school hours. It's the athlete or band member that's there at 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, I don't know. Do the coaches always stay till the last person? I would. Not everybody does.
They
And-
should.
Well, I know I get that, but if something happens, they can't call.
Mm-hmm.
And then, isn't there a tower? I thought there was a tower on the corner of Everdell and Piermont. Is that not it looks like a tower.
I don't know.
No?
I'm not sure where that is.
Because they get
And
horrible
how-
reception over there.
Yeah, 'cause even
I know,
Deerfield
but
has
how
it.
do the homes get? How do the homes?
They
get-
don't.
They use the
They're
Verizon or whatever,
yeah.
because I know Deer Trail has none
Yeah.
back there.
Neither does Everdell. People that live on that street just don't
Yeah.
have it.
I actually live in that area now too, and I don't have cell service at my home.
Wow.
It's a frustration.
Okay.
I did learn that Rivervale apparently got permission from maybe the county or the state to put a cell tower up out near the public golf course. But as far as I can tell, they haven't started the planning process of that yet. That would definitely impact us, because
Okay.
when you look geographically, if you look at a topographic map, you can see that if there was a tower there, it would absolutely hit down. So that's another possibility if that project gets underway. We do allow the students to get on the Wi-Fi with their cell phones at night. So if an athlete is there at night, the issue is that, and I think that parents now know where to wait, because there are parts in the parking lot where you can get cell signal, and I see parents there, I hear Valley parents kind of chuckling, but you can get limited cell signal in the church parking lot and in the front of the building, and I think that that happens sometimes too with parents. But it's frustrating, and short of us trying to build a cell tower, which is not at all feasible, unfortunately. It's really difficult for us to do it, other than continuing to try to help facilitate the conversation in the larger community.
Okay.
Just to build on what Pat's saying, can we, if you haven't, just give I don't know if a reminder is the right word, to these evening coaches to please not leave the facility if they see children hanging around waiting for a ride? I'm sure they know it, but I don't think a reminder can hurt.
I'll tell you what kids do, because they don't want to be embarrassed and be stuck with a coach. They pretend to leave and they go hide, and the coaches
Jeez, I
leave.
can't help you
I've
there.
seen it. So it's
Okay.
not on the coaches necessarily. I
They
think
don't know,
it's
yeah.
that they think the kids are all gone. And it's
Okay.
not elementary school. They're not walking and handing off to a parent.
Right.
So just to piggyback on this question, we had talked about this 3-4 years ago. Mr. Blundo or Mr. Usami, maybe you can refresh us, because someone had come in and proposed putting something on top of the school.
Yep.
Was that a separate tower, or was that the booster that's being referred to? And our questions were with regard to then disposal of it and taking it down, and who would be responsible for it. And I believe that was during Dr. Gunderson's time, and then we didn't really talk about it again until recently.
Yeah, I think it was a booster. I think Mr. Zeller met with some people, and that was where Ms. Bellotti mentioned that there just wasn't enough to boost.
So that was the boost.
They realized that there's nothing to boost. We did ask an architect to go check this out, because they had done something similar in another district. So I reached out to this architect, since he had experience in it. He checked, but unfortunately the carriers said, no, they're not doing anything at this time. And I think that's what I had reported a couple of years ago. I think that may have been with Dr. Fishbein.
Yeah.
So then what is Gottheimer? What is his proposed solution to this? Does he have a proposed solution?
His request was to be able to talk with the township about it. So I think his solution would be directly related to something that the township could consider. I'm not sure directly.
We should also follow up with Rivervale. We don't have to wait, make a phone call and call them and say, is it in their plans? And If so, what's the timing? And if they're running into any bureaucratical snags, we could potentially put pressure on whomever that might be, because it's a safety issue at a high school. So I would recommend reaching out to them and seeing where they are, if anywhere.
Sure.
Well, the shame of this is, we've been talking about this for at least 3 or 4 years. And then, if anything were ever to happen, then everybody points fingers at each other, and it was someone else's fault. So if Josh Gottheimer's out there and Josh would like to throw some money at the problem, rather than ask the township, and then the township points back to the federal government or the state government, there needs to be a solution to it, because we've been talking about it for too long.
I agree. I think this is more of an urgent matter. This should be at our forefront right now, because I'm really concerned. If this was here, I would be all over this every single day. Believe me, this is serious. I don't like this at all, that they're not able to get access to the outside world. So this is really concerning to me.
Anyone else?
Part of, so just to be clear about what the congressman is talking about, he's talking about federal funds that can go only to townships or counties to build facilities. We wouldn't be eligible. So we've talked with him now 2 or 3 times about whether or not our area would be eligible for those funds, but the township would have to agree to do it. So, and I know that, I shouldn't say this, my understanding is that these funds were secured for the township maybe 6 years ago, and the voters in the township neglected to, move forward on it. So I think that that's part of the issue, is that there's only so much that we can control, and we're trying to, within our sphere of what we can do, I feel like we're trying to do as much as we can. This new study that's coming, I'm hopeful that they can get a little bit of a signal, because like I said, there's definitely some signal there now, whereas, 4 years ago, there was 0 signal. So if we can get that to happen, that's something we can control.
Do we still have a
Sarah?
safety? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Sarah, would it help to have maybe a joint meeting with the townships and have the school board involved, or somehow? Is there something that we can do to kind of, not just Rivervale, Hillsdale, like just the neighboring towns, to get everybody involved?
Possibly. We spoke with the mayor this morning. He left it with the mayor of Hillsdale this morning. He left it with us that he was going to speak to Congressman Gottheimer this week. And then, let us know if there was, anything there that he felt could happen. So we can certainly follow up with him and see if it's something that we could do to do that. But I think that the townships would have to host that because they're ultimately the only ones that are eligible to get that funding. But we can certainly facilitate that and, continue to ask questions.
By that, though, if they got the funding, let's say the town of Hillsdale got the funding, is it that it can't be housed on our property, like the Pascack Valley property, or is it just that it
could
what's
be
the
housed on our
limitation?
property.
Oh, okay. So it just has to kind of funnel through them, but it could be.
Yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but there are schools that have cell boosters and cell towers on them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
if we, if we learn that there's any avenue here, I feel like then we can have a larger discussion about the actual logistics of that. Yeah. Yeah, no, fair
To Ms.
questions.
Steffen's point, do we still have a safety committee? Because that seems like it would be the appropriate committee to invite the township and the congressman to participate in a meeting to discuss this topic. Because I feel like unless we initiate it and we drive it, then it's just going to get continued to be bounced around and go nowhere, as it's done for the last 4 years, at least.
If not safety, could fall under wellness. I mean, that is well-being
Right.
of students. So I think Mr. Weaver's bringing up a good point. And I would also like to say,
Facilities, yeah, would be the other.
facilities is another one. I think we need to be relentless, Sarah. I think you're right in saying it's got to be the town. You also mentioned another entity that we haven't contacted, which is the county, right? We are residents of the county of Bergen. They are eligible for these funds. And I don't think we should take a passive approach. I think we should be aggressive. We should call Rivervale. We should call the county. You've already established communication with Hillsdale. be relentless, come at this from every angle, because what I'm hearing from just about every person here is that there's a high level of concern. So I would not wait, just my personal opinion, I would be proactive and go to them aggressively.
I just want to say that we have done our part. I mean, we have contact. There is no real emergency issue for the school because we have access. We have the Wi-Fi, we have all the radio access and everything else. The issue is, outside of school hours, students and even residents in that neighborhood around are even more at a disadvantage because they don't have access to our frequency and our ability to contact out. So, in a sense, it's a community thing. We've done a lot. We've done our part. I don't want people to think that, the schools aren't able to, make contact should we have a situation. We are. But again, this is cellular and Wi-Fi, different things. So we have the ability to get out.
I'm not sure it's a community thing, though. Didn't it get voted? It didn't get voted. The funding didn't get voted on?
What I'm saying is it's a neighborhood thing. It's
So-
those residents that are in a dead zone as well.
Right.
No, that's true, but
I don't know who voted, if it was a public vote or if
Right.
it was people coming
Yeah.
out to the township committee, but I do know that there was a plan that was squashed.
right, that's what I'm saying. The security concerns are much more acute when you have children of that age, whether they're second grade or seniors. So I'm not sure people outside of that really see how Joe mentioned, right? It's really concerning. Like I don't think we should wait. I agree with Joe on this. Yeah.
We can follow up. I'll follow up with the Hillsdale mayor first, just because I know we just had a conversation with him. And then in the meantime, I'll follow up with Rivervale to see where they are on the proposal that's supposed to go up by the golf course, because that could be a big help. And then I would actually suggest if we're going to facilitate a meeting with the mayors, I think it should probably be board leadership. Not to put that on you guys, but I think that makes sense.
That's fine.
And if the board consensus is to have board leadership participate in such a meeting and follow up on that, then we can just move forward with that as well.
Do you want me to find out of the county who to contact?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
I think the other thing is also, in the meantime, while we're waiting for all this to happen, do the kids know the Wi-Fi? Like, does the Wi-Fi automatically go on at 2:51 when school is? Oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure, because sports and things like that, even if there are parents who, something happens and a parent, but there's not really students there, is there a way to maybe put the Wi-Fi in those places that we use, like the gym, after school hours Wi-Fi password or something like that, just so everyone has access to it? Because that makes sense. You're right. Of course, they're going to know. My apologies.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
that's
you're
all-
right.
But
But-
that's only PV students.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a
When
lot
we
of
bring
tournaments.
outside children in and rent out the facilities.
Right.
They don't have access, right? This is only something our
Right.
students have.
And there's a lot of tournaments
Right.
with K to 8, well,
Yeah.
not K,
Right.
but
The-
fourth to eighth grade.
The issue, though,
Yeah.
the issue is that we have a closed Wi-Fi network. We don't have an open network. So,
Well, if you have
Yeah.
the password, you couldn't.
no, it's like you have to log in individually. Yes, you have to, thank you. You have to have an account with our network, yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, then, yeah, it's even more of a safety thing, I feel like,
Yeah.
because I do, if it was open to everyone, that would make sense, that like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, not a big deal, you can get on. But since you can't
yeah.
now, I do think, because there could be a visiting town that comes in and, an adult could have a heart attack. God forbid, that something like that did happen. We'd need emergency services, and
So you can access, anybody that is on the Wi-Fi, you can access 911 from your cell phone. So
Okay.
as long as, even at just we always have somebody in the building, custodian, otherwise. We also have phones and AEDs in every space, and if you pull the AED off the wall, or trigger a fire alarm, it sends out that emergency signal, which I get it.
Okay,
This would
for
be a lot
example,
better
then,
if we
but-
could do that, but there are a couple of safety things in where if there's an emergency, there is the ability
Okay.
to call out, but,
I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's good information. I just do think in this day and age, 2024, where we're at, we should be able to.
yeah, I think there's an expectation. I think that when people visit the school, there's an expectation, and I will say, this always bubbles up in like September, because incoming freshmen, it takes them a little bit to realize kind of like to have their parents download GChat and to, figure out that they have to log into the Wi-Fi after hours and set up their phones that way. And we also get, comments and questions from parents. So this year, Mr. Puccio did send out like a little update to freshman parents that said like, hey, this is what you can do. This is what your children have access to. Don't forget to download the Google Chat app. You can do that, but it's certainly not ideal. I think that, trying to get a meeting together with the mayors is a great next step.
Quick follow-up.
yeah.
Does it work in, like, on the soccer field, on the football field? Does the Wi-Fi work there?
Certain parts, yes, certain parts, no.
Wi-Fi or cell phone? So there's Wi-Fi coverage all the way out to the tennis courts. Cell coverage you can get if you're on the bleachers.
Okay.
So just to be clear, if I'm a visitor from anywhere and I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, can I call 911
On your cell phone or generally?
on my cell phone?
Possibly. You can definitely call 911 from a phone in the building.
Possibly is not a good enough answer for me, especially when we're renting out these facilities to outside groups who are coming in. And I mean, the liability I feel like we have is enormous.
I agree. I do think that, especially having this, I think this is the first time we're really having such an in-depth conversation about this, and I appreciate that a lot. I do think that we need to put a little bit of emphasis behind this, and so, we have the facilities, let's do it through the facilities committee. Definitely, it can, Joe
But let's
and I-
not wait for a committee meeting. I
No,
know
let's
you're
not,
gonna make calls tomorrow.
we're
All
not,
right.
we're not gonna wait for that, because I think having this discussion and really putting everything out on the table, makes it a little bit clearer, and this is not something that is just on, this is a entire district problem, so I do think that I would love to see this looked at more, and I'm very happy that we've had this conversation. Thank you for bringing it up, Mrs. Martin.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this subject?
Yeah, girls' locker room. I know we talked about this, and I know we bought a new property, but where are we in terms of the Hills girls' locker room?
So the quotes that we got in were multiples of $1 million to even do an adjustment. So right now, the consensus, the recommendation coming out of facility, and I believe that we voted on this as a full board, though it may have just been a report, is that we are funneling our capital towards saving up to be able to do one of those projects. The alternate there would be that we do have a bond that comes due in 2028 that we could potentially do a tax negative referendum on, meaning that the referendum bill would be a tax negative. If that does come to fruition, something that the board wants to do, we would start talking about that probably in 2026, 2027. That would be something that we could build into that that bond to be able to do, because we're really looking at, to do it right, you're looking at probably $5 or $6 million. To do it not even that great was like $3.5 million. And honestly, I think that the $3.5 million proposal, to me, first of all, it didn't address the square footage issue. It did make the spaces nicer, but they were still not equal spaces. So, that's a lot of money to put towards something that's a Band-Aid. So I think it was maybe last winter, we had a conversation about trying to just funnel monies to save up to be able to do a better fix on it, because it does remain an issue.
How long do you anticipate that would be, so you said if it was the other option, it'd be like 2028, we talk about 26?
Yeah, it depends on where the other projects are coming in. So we've got 2 projects right now that we had already kind of committed to, which would be the 2 auditoriums. We're not getting great prices on those, so we just had a conversation about this earlier today. We may end up going back out to bid on those again, because they're coming in much higher than we had originally anticipated. So it really depends on what the spending is on those 2 projects, and then what's left over, and how much we have savings year over year.
That's the auditorium project? Yes? Auditorium?
The
No,
2
what-
auditorium projects are, what I'm saying, are where the funds are allocated, correct?
I asked like how long would it take, and Ms. Bellotti said it would depend on where we get to with the auditorium, and then based on that would be how much we'd save for the girls' locker room.
So I appreciate Ms. Steffens bringing this up so that I'm not beating the dead horse by myself anymore on it. I think my concern is that there's still not a concrete plan in place, again, after 4 years now of talking about it with different administrations and different board members. And I think I'm concerned as well about the auditoriums. I mean, the auditoriums were originally budgeted on the long-term plan at $1 million, and then it came back at like upwards of $2 million. And I mean, the auditoriums are not anything that I can recall us talking about in finance or facilities where we've looked at or seen anything. And that's still something that sounds like is not getting done, and there's really been no updates on it, at least within the past year that I can recall. If we're looking at doing something related to the locker rooms with regard to a tax-neutral referendum, then I would like to see that planning start now, because we know that there are other projects that need to be done. And if hopefully we learn the lesson from the auditorium that we thought it was $1 million, but now, you know, the last I heard it was over 2. If we're thinking a locker room is going to be 5 to 6, 5 or 6 more years out, it's not going to be 5 or 6 anymore. And to know what other projects need to be done. For example, when we received correspondence from the PV football program and their concerns about the snack stand, that's probably another project that needs to be considered with restrooms out there, right? Because we don't have access to that, and you know, we've seen the porta potties if you've been over at that field, right? Again, hopefully, I feel like we were saying this time last year too. We can have those conversations and see that long-term planning, so that we can understand, you know, what projects need to be done and what those anticipated costs are going to be, because the anticipated cost for the auditoriums, it's more than double that right now, which is why I think we're probably having so much trouble getting them done.
So we definitely discussed this in the facilities committee with Robert. It was also at about the same time when we were talking about acquiring the property on the other side of Pascack Hills across the street. And we were trying to balance all of the finances and how could this all be done. Well, that project obviously is not on the burner at this point. We definitely talked about, Robert made a strong pitch that doing the auditoriums was a priority. I believe there was some abatement. I'm not sure there was a reason.
So there's a minimum that we have to do at the Hills Auditorium that's probably going to be about $700,000. That's an abatement.
And the idea was if we're going to abate it, we might as well do everything. But what I would suggest is perhaps Robert make a report to the entire board and not just the committee about where we are on these things so that we can all ask him questions and we can all see as a group where we are.
Sure.
Great idea.
But it was all discussed. That was the decision and the recommendation of the committee at the time based on Robert's input. But some things have changed. And obviously, we're bringing it up again, so we should probably have a presentation.
So specifically looking at an update on the auditorium projects?
The auditorium projects, and then a discussion on how we go forward with the girls' locker room, okay? We can mention the snack stand as well that Mr. Weaver brought up. But do it as a group, because when a couple of us hear it and then somebody's absent and then we bring it, so I think we should have it seems like it's important enough to have a presentation from him.
Sure.
He'll know if there's any other anticipated expenditures coming up that you should be aware of.
Yep.
Any more discussion?
I just have one more old business item, related to Ms. Martin's, I guess it was about the dance team and request for funding. So when we had gotten the correspondence from the PV football boosters program back in, I think it was October, I know I had shared a communication just asking for, the boosters raises money for, I guess, the football program. And then the questions were, who else would use that facility and what are they raising money for? And I know I had requested at the time, could we get a report or an understanding of what out-of-pocket expenses are programs, all extracurriculars, not just athletics, expecting of their students? Like, how much money are we asking from parents if you're part of this club, if you're part of that club? And then who has the support of boosters? Like, which of those programs? So these are all of our extracurriculars. These are all of our requests. This program is asking for $200. And then which programs have fundraising and boosters and how much are they raising? Because I'd hate to see one group be fully funded for something and then another group not receive funding for anything and be, responsible for all these out-of-pocket expenses. So I know there was a communication back that we'd be able to get access to that in a finance, but we never had any follow-up. So I can forward that communication from back in October again, and maybe that is probably related to what you were speaking about, and would be good information to have as we're looking to fund different activities through the budget, right?
And I have a quick question too. When there's admissions to like a wrestling match, kids pay $3, adults pay $5, whatever. Does that go back to the programming, or where does that money go?
It depends.
Oh, I know like the state ones, like the big games go somewhere else, but as far as like the local, like
So
last week my
for-
husband went to wrestling. He paid $5 to get in. Does that go to the wrestling program or to the athletics?
So, yeah, it might go to a generalized athletic fund, but it might go to the booster club. For example, the theater program charges, that goes into the theater budget. The spring concert charges like $1 at Hills. That actually goes right back into like the choral to pay for, things specifically for that activity. Athletics, when they collect tickets, so to speak, technically that should go back into the athletic fund and then can be used to offset is usually used to offset like chaperone, security, and other like kind of recurring expenses, but it's not enough to cover those lines. Unless there's somewhere else, Mr. Usami, that I'm missing that it goes to. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like baseball games they don't charge, wrestling they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we went to a dance PV dance send-off was amazing. But that they didn't charge for. So it's kind of hard to know what you're paying. Like, I'm always with cash in pocket. I'm like, am I paying to get into this one? Am I not? So I just didn't know if it went to a general fund or if this actually helps that particular program.
Yeah, just the general fund. Yeah. And then boosters, if they're raising money, that goes directly towards them. But I will say, at Hills, the concession stand is actually operated by the senior class. At Valley, the concession stands are operated by individual booster clubs. So it's a little, it just is, it's different by event and different by location.
So I think therein lies the question of, you have the senior class running it at Hills, and I imagine that goes towards their senior expenses. But at Valley, they're running it for specific programs. So at Hills, then, the programs that aren't having access to those additional funds by the boosters may be paying more out-of-pocket money, whereas Valley, the boosters are running the concessions, which is reducing the costs or out-of-pocket costs for the players possibly in their programs. So having that understanding of what's expected of what families from each school for each extracurricular activity, I think would be a big help.
Sure, and if you guys, want to give me, just a second, because we did look into this, and I feel like I have a list, so just give me 1 second. If I can find it quickly.
Well, while you're doing that, if you don't mind me bringing up a point, and I might have read this wrong, so somebody can correct me, but did I see that snack stand at Valley, they're talking like $1 million? Did I read that right? So just
We have
think-
another solution, but yes.
Okay. Because, $1 million is never going to be covered by selling snacks. Okay, not in our lifetimes. So do you just take that $1 million and find a way to get it back to the programs? We had the same argument at the turf field in Riverville. Oh, we can host a Super Bowl and make $10,000. I can give you $10,000 for the next 100 years. There's more advantages to the turf field, but that was the point.
Yeah.
Spend $1 million to sell concessions.
Yeah, our
Didn't make
concession
sense
stands
to
is
me.
like about $100 to $200 a week.
Right. So, but you have a cheaper solution, which we can talk about with Robert
Yes.
when he comes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
While we're waiting for
Yeah.
Ms. Bellotti, I would like to say that I am super happy to see the entire board here today. And I think this is a really, really great meeting. I think the fact that we've all put in input, we've talked about things that we've talked about for years, but maybe just really haven't touched upon. I think each and every single one of us, including our student representatives, are very important to this running as a board. And I really hope that we can continue to have more meetings where everybody is in attendance, because it really is so, each person's voice matters so much. And new voices, with new input. But the fact that we're talking about something like the Wi-Fi and have such a great discussion about it after all this time, I think it really says a lot about being together as a full board. So I'd like all of us this year to try and make as many meetings as we can so that we can be a more effective board.
I'm out next week. Sorry.
How dare you? Okay, and then while Miss,
Yeah, I'm not finding it quickly, but I'll look for it and get back to you, because I do have a chart that both athletic directors had put together. I'm just not immediately finding it, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Any other discussion for old business? Okay. Anything for new business?
So I did have two things. We've been talking about such heavy topics. I wanted to just be a little uplifting, right? So I drive through this hot mess of traffic every morning to drop my kids off at school. And parents, the earlier you get here, the better, right? If you wait till the last minute, you have to expect to sit in traffic. And we know how bad the weather has been in the fall with rain and the cold and just what I've seen in the past month. And I think today was the first day I've seen the sun since maybe December, right? So I just want to thank the custodians and the security. I don't know what it looks like at Valley, but there's someone stationed down at the entrance near the student entrance. So the entrance off of Grand, and then where the students enter the lot to get the kids in the lot, and then to separate people off into two lines to keep it flowing. And then there's someone who's stationed up at the crosswalk, getting the kids across and the teachers across. And if not for those two individuals who stand out there in the cold and the rain every day, which is, I imagine, a very difficult way to start your day, kids wouldn't get through here and the parents wouldn't get through here safely. So for those individuals who do that every morning, it's greatly appreciated. And a Valley note, I wanted to thank the girls basketball team. You'll probably do this in your next report, but every Sunday before Martin Luther King Day, dating back to, I think, 2004, the Pascack Valley girls basketball team, under the leadership of Coach Jasper, they're really one of the first programs to start these benefit events that you see now with in the fall with soccer, in the winter, and in the spring with different softball events for different charitable organizations. So they've been doing it now for 20 years. He started it back in 2004 with, I think, Brian Dunn from Old Tapan, who was a teacher back at Hills back in the day, and he's a great one who got away, unfortunately. And they host a full day worth of games starting at like 9 in the morning. It goes until, probably 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I think over the years, they've raised funds for autism awareness, diabetes, Wounded Warrior, and this past event was for the Zach Lettieri Foundation. And the event is really possible because the Pascack Valley girls players spend their entire day after their game volunteering their time, whether it's in the snack stand or selling 50-50 tickets. And just the fact that they've been doing it for 20 years now, and the fact that other programs throughout the state have kind of taken that idea and run with it, just speaks to, Coach Jasper's leadership and what he's done with that program over the years. So just my appreciation to all that they've done with that event, and my thanks. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr.
And I
Weaver.
guess with the newest, if we're talking about the sports, PV dance team will be leaving for nationals in Florida. So the best of luck to all of them. And I don't know what happened today, but the PV cheer program advanced to tonight. And if they did well tonight, I don't know. My daughter was there watching them and cheering on her friends. But if they advance tonight, I think they're the 16th. They get to a big competition. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Good
So
luck.
good
girls.
luck to the girls.
Yeah. Any other new business? I just have one comment to say about the committees. So we everyone got the committee assignments. I would like the chairs of each committee to, if you know that someone is not going to be there, if you could let myself or Sarah know, because if someone wants to sit in on a meeting, I know you all want to do more for the board. I do see that. If you wanted to sit in on one of those meetings for a committee that you are not on, that would be a great thing. So if someone says, hey, I can't make it, the chair can always tell Sarah and Ms. Bellotti and myself, and we can relay it to everyone. And if someone wants to be there, because we tried to do our best to, work out these committees the way everyone requested. But, there's only so many things that people can be on. So just please keep that in mind.
Do we have dates for anything yet, or it's kind of?
No, not yet.
Okay, perfect.
Because it has to be worked out and
Okay.
blah, blah, blah. Okay. Any other new business? No. Next would be a section 4 comments from the public, and this would be on anything not things limited to the agenda. Okay, there's no one here. So can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned.